Welcome back. The fortune of a nation can sometimes be measured by its security. That's for sure. The government says it has defeated Boko Haram. The herdsmen, farmers' crisis rages on. The bottom line is there is a lot of work to be done for Nigerians to live without fear, which raises some questions on the national security of the country. Are we faced with a mere structural problem, and balancing the structure will fix the problems? Well, are those in charge of the nation's security just need to revisit strategy? Well, let's get some more insight into this. Wherever you may be living in Nigeria, either you're watching right now from Benue State or from Taraba State or from Nasarawa State or any of the 6 states that will be hosting Operation Rat Race, you need to get a seat and get some insight on how this will benefit you and your community. Okay, if you're not living in those states, 6 states, or you're living in Southwest, or you're living in some part of the South or Southeast part of the country, you also need to listen to this because security is very important. Joining me on the program at this time is Mr. Ladi Thompson, a pastor in Lagos, and also the special advisor to the Christian Association of Nigeria on issues. You are the ex now, yeah. Special advisor on terrorism, and thank you so much for your time on the program today.
The pleasure always is mine.
We've discussed, you and I, on the program at some point, discussed the issues of security in the country. Just yesterday, the news of the good news of the University of Maiduguri lecturers, those women who are now going to be reunited with their families, and some of these stories, and also the stories of the arrest of some of these Boko Haram, some of them who have who came forward. If you assess all of these in the last 2 years or so, how would you assess the insurgency war, for example, in the Northeast?
Well, quickly, let us do one thing, which is to rejoice for every single person that makes it out alive. For the policewomen that were released, for the lecturers in Maiduguri who have been reunited with their families, we need as a nation to celebrate and rejoice mightily. But having done that, we need to now reassess. First of all, if you look at the Boko Haram is losing relevance to another form of the same menace. So if you really look at the body language of the Boko Haram right now, you'd realize that they outplayed their hands. They did some things that attracted global attention in a very negative way. And I'm sure that their funding is not as much as it was before. So in an essence, when we look back, we need to understand that, well, the Boko Haram is gasping for oxygen in a way. However, the basic threat itself, what we are facing is a hydra. I've said this over and over again in the past few years. It is a shape shifter. It changes form. And what we saw that happened was that the moment the Boko Haram became an embarrassment globally, and obviously they were not as effective, we saw the Fulani herdsmen narrative arise. And all that happened was that somebody took an ancient story line and took advantages of the floor lines and reintroduced the same problem.
A lot of the times people will say not all Fulanis are herdsmen, not herdsmen are Fulanis. The careful use of the ethnicity there, a lot of times will need a lot of care, because some people have said not all the herdsmen are Fulanis.
True, but strategically speaking, this is one of the things that we have to face. There are certain elements in this narrative that once you remove them, you will not be able to effectively deal with the situation. Now, the reason why the issue of first of all, what are we dealing with? We are dealing with a supremacist narrative that covers itself with religion. Now, it used the Boko Haram. The Boko Haram was wasteful, full of noise, not very effective. And all of a sudden, it looks back to an ancient narrative, a more disciplined people. It exploits certain, stories and certain things within that group of people, and then arises to continue its supremacist plot. And that's why if we are going to face this thing squarely, we must remember that what we are looking at would never have worked if there had been no 1804. Because there was an 1804, and that 1804 was challenged at that time by El Kanemi, and remember the letters in 1808 and all that, what somebody has just simply done is that, look, it is not really the Fulani, there's an intelligence. This thing is global. There's an intelligence that watches Nigeria, understands the fault lines of Nigeria, knows the flaws of Nigeria, knows where to prod, knows what to press to bring results. And that's why you find out that it is needful for it to be identified as the Fulani, the same ancient Fulani narrative that was introduced by Usman Danfodio. And you want to remember that even in those days, the Kanem Bonu Empire challenged it. In the same way today, because there's a leadership culture in that Fulani narrative, they're actually more effective, their strike capacity is wider, they are more disciplined, and a lot more effective than the Boko Haram ever was.
So the government needs to take it very seriously.
Very seriously.
Pastor Thompson, let's for a moment hear from the man who is perhaps in charge of security in Benue State, where some of these attacks have been taking place. He's a new man on the ground. He's a commissioner of police in Benue State, Mr. Fatai Owosheni.